Get out of my hotel before I call the cops!
Humiliation is just the spark. Watch what happened when it meets dignity.
They said she didn't belong, but silence was never weakness.
Power doesn't shout, it signs.
The lobby didn't breathe. It shimmered. Marble floors the color of moonlight, chandeliers hanging like quiet constellations. A reception desk, dark wood, polished to a courtroom shine, Elena. Ward stood there with a travel tote and silence. Black. Woman pressed navy shirt dark. Slacks, loafers soft enough to make her footsteps disappear. A cap brim lowered just enough to turn the light into a veil. She placed a phone on the counter. Screen bright. Confirmation open. The penthouse number glowed like a small verdict. Gavin Price didn't read it. Night manager. Crisp nameplate. Voice trained to sound like ownership. "Ma'am, the lobby is for registered guests," he said. "I'll need real identification, not a screenshot." Elena tilted the screen a fraction. "It's not a screenshot." Leah Burns stepped from the side office, carrying a stack of reports like a shield, assistant manager. Measured smile. Calculated eyes. "Everything okay, Gavin?" "Potential issue," he said, keeping his gaze on Elena. "We've seen this before. Forged emails. Creative stories." A soft click echoed. Tara Fields had lifted her phone across the seating area. She didn't speak. She just framed the scene, desk, chandeliers, the woman at the center who refused to shrink. Chloe Rivera, the new front desk agent, hovered near the terminal, caught between training manuals and human instinct. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. "What name should I search, ma'am?" Elena's answer was calm. "Let's start with your handbook. Section 12.4, Chloe blinked. Leah's smile thinned. Gavin laughed once like a glass tapped by a ring. "This is a 5-star environment," he said. "We don't run on internet folklore." Elena didn't move. The chandeliers hummed. The marble held its breath. "Your handbook," she repeated. Section 12.4. Noah Grant, head of security, arrived with the measured walk of someone who's seen a dozen midnights and learned which ones matter. He nodded to Elena, then to Gavin. "What's the concern?" "Reservation anomaly," Gavin said. "We're clearing it." Noah studied the faces first, then the phone on the counter. "I can look up 12.4. "Please," Elena said. Leah leaned in to Chloe. "Check the VIP directory. Cross-reference the confirmation number. If it doesn't match our pattern, flag it," Chloe typed. The keys sounded nervous. Tara's camera floated closer. The lens drank everything. The monogrammed pens, the velvet rope, the quiet stares from couples in evening wear who'd never expect a story to start at check-in. Gavin tapped the phone back toward Elena with a single finger. "We've had counterfeit confirmations before," he said, voice the temperature of marble. "It's above my pay grade to accept anything that looks improvised." Elena's cap brim lifted a millimeter. The eyes beneath were clear as onyx. "One more time," she said. Section 12.4. Noah's tablet vibrated. He scanned the excerpt, the language of policy and consequence. "Immediate termination for discriminatory conduct toward guests or prospective guests," he read. Not loud, not soft. "Including conduct based on perceived economic status." Gavin's mouth set. "This is not about status. It's about protocol," Elena's phone chimed. She silenced it without checking. A meeting that could wait. The lobby could not. Tara's stream count ticked upward. A quiet comment ribboned by, "This feels wrong." "Keep filming. Let's save everyone time," Gavin said, palms opening like a gracious host. "If you can't produce an acceptable payment method and government ID immediately, we'll have to ask you to step aside so we can assist real other guests." The word hung there, not quite said, fully heard. Chloe swallowed. "Gavin, the confirmation number. It matches our format. And the sender domain is anyone can mimic a domain," Leah cut in, polite steel in the syllables. "It happens." Elena slid a black card across the counter. Metal-kissed stone, no flourish. No performance. Gavin didn't touch it. We've seen these fakes too. Noah looked at him. You haven't even checked. I'm protecting the property, Gavin said. Midnight attracts noise. Elena studied the chandelier's reflection in the marble. It fractured into a galaxy that wasn't supposed to be hers. Then she looked back at the man who'd made it smaller. You're certain, she said, that the problem is me? Gavin's smile didn't change. I'm certain about policy. Tara's lens caught the apology in Chloe's eyes before anyone spoke it out loud. Leah folded her reports. Ma'am, if you step aside, we'll verify with corporate. The tone was silk. The meaning was stone. Elena nodded once, as though considering a reasonable suggestion. Then, no, we'll verify with the truth. Chloe glanced at Noah. He took a single breath that sounded like restraint. Let's handle this carefully, he said. Carefully is what I'm doing, Gavin replied. He turned to the side of the lobby, giving his voice to the room. Security protocol requires us to prevent fraudulent access to premium floors. Thank you for your patience. The couples in evening wear leaned in. A pair of consultants near the bar stopped their whispering. A bell cart rolled by and hesitated. As if even wheels listened, Elena lifted her tote and removed a leather folio the color of midnight. She didn't open it. She just rested a hand on it like a judge touching a sealed verdict. Here is what's going to happen, she said, voice low enough to invite, clear enough to command. You will check your system again. You will read your handbook out loud if you need to, and you will decide whether this building believes its own policies. Leah's chin lifted the width of a coin. We believe in discretion. Discretion, Elena repeated, is how prejudice learns table manners. Gavin leaned closer. The smile was gone now. What remained was authority in search of confirmation. Last request, he said. Step aside while we call the police to verify identity. Noah's head turned sharply. Gavin, it's routine, Gavin insisted. The lobby's air changed. No music now, only the chandelier whisper and Tara's silent camera. Elena lifted the black card again, not to offer, but to reclaim. It disappeared into the folio. Her hand paused over the zipper, then closed it with a sound like a drawn line. Section 12.4, she said. Final this time. Noah looked between the faces, the manager, the assistant, the agent with doubt pressed into her shoulders, the woman at the center who refused to be moved. He made a decision. We're pausing this, he said. Chloe, rerun the reservation under the confirmation code. Verify the email headers. Leah, pull the incident log for the last 6 months, filter by treatment concerns. Leah exhaled through her nose. Noah, that's not... It is, he said. Tara's viewer count climbed in quiet little meteors. People watched because one person in a uniform had chosen the policy that protects. Not the one that excuses, Chloe typed, faster now. The reservation is real, she said, voice shaking. Penthouse level. 6 nights, paid in advance. Leah reached for the screen. It's real, Chloe repeated louder. Gavin stared at the monitor as though proximity might alter truth. He blinked once, twice. Then the payment method, approved, Chloe whispered. 2 months ago, silence widened, enormous and delicate. Elena's gaze moved past the desk to the lobby itself, the velvet rope, the bowed heads, the mirrored confidence of other people's wealth. She looked back at Gavin, not angry, not relieved, just inevitable. You said the lobby is for registered guests, she said. Gavin swallowed. That's correct. Then the lobby is mine, Elena replied, and the chandelier seemed to settle on that line as if it, too, had been waiting for permission to shine. Noah's radio crackled, then went quiet. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Leah unclasped her folder, but papers don't help when the floor shifts under them. Tara's camera held steady. Elena placed the folio on the counter, closed. Now, she said, shall we talk about responsibility? The air didn't move. It waited. A security earpiece hissed once, then fell silent again, every eye in the lobby fixed on Elena Ward, except hers. She looked past them, past the marble and the chandelier glow, to a space that none of them could see. Leah Burns spoke first. Her voice tried for composure but found defense instead. "Miss Ward, was it? You can't expect us to believe—" Elena raised a hand, not a command. "A boundary. Belief isn't required," she said softly. "Verification is." Tara Fields adjusted her phone. Her audience count had doubled. Comments scrolled like whispers. "Who is she? Why so calm? This feels bigger than a check-in." Gavin Price reached for the house phone. "Enough. We're resolving this now." The line rang once, twice, then stopped. The corporate line was already engaged. Noah Grant looked at the flashing light on the console. "Headquarters is monitoring," he said. "Social media traffic just spiked with our location tag." Gavin blinked. "What?" Tara's lens turned slightly toward the monitors where, even from a distance, the words Orion Hotel Bias began to trend. The marble under their feet became thin ice. Leah straightened her blazer. "Ms. Ward, if this is some kind of social experiment..." Elena's laugh was quiet, almost kind. "Experiment?" "No. Audit." Noah's head lifted. "Audit? You'll understand soon." She opened the folio. The soft leather breathed as though it remembered boardrooms. Gavin stepped closer, his authority crumbling into irritation. "You think this prop is going to intimidate me?" Elena's eyes didn't rise from the documents. "Not intimidate, illuminate." The choice of word unsettled the room more than volume ever could. Chloe Rivera's voice was small but certain. "The system lists her as a corporate priority account." Leah turned sharp. "Priority? Since when?" Chloe scrolled. "Since March of this year. Account type, executive ownership liaison." The folio's clasp clicked open. Elena laid one page on the marble. Letterhead embossed in silver, the Orion Group. Her fingers traced a single signature. Black ink that didn't need introduction. She didn't hand it over. She simply let it exist between them. Noah read first. His breath caught. Gavin leaned in, eyes narrowing as though comprehension was a trick of light. The document spoke in corporate precision. Elena Ward, Chief Executive Officer, Ward Global Holdings, Majority Owner, Orion Group Hotels. No music swelled. No gasp came first. Only the slow collapse of arrogance under fluorescent light. Tara's viewers saw it before the staff did. The chat ignited. "She's the CEO, the owner. She owns the place." Leah's lips parted. "This can't— How do you have this file?" "I wrote it," Elena said. 6 months ago, when I bought everything under this roof." Gavin's hand fell from the phone. The receiver swung once and stopped. Still. Elena continued, each word measured clean. "Tonight was supposed to be an unannounced culture audit. I wanted to see how the night shift treats people who don't look like they belong." She glanced at Tara's camera. "Apparently the answer will reach more people than I planned." Noah rubbed a hand over his jaw. "Ma'am, You did your job," she interrupted gently. "You asked questions. You sought clarity. That's all I ever ask from my employees." Her eyes slid to Leah and Gavin. "Others chose theater over truth." Gavin tried to find footing in apology. "Ms. Ward, if we had known—" Elena's look stopped him mid-sentence. "You'd have smiled wider, spoken softer, and still believed the same thing." The chandelier's reflection flickered across the marble, fracturing into 1,000 pale truths, Leah whispered. "Corporate will review this." Elena's tone was almost tender. "Corporate is standing in front of you." For a moment, no one spoke. The luxury veneer felt like disguise peeling at the edges. Tara zoomed in. Her voice trembled into her mic. "This woman just revealed she owns the entire hotel chain. The staff's faces, I can't even describe it." Noah closed the folio gently. "What do you want us to do, Ms. Ward?" Elena exhaled, the kind of breath that sounds like release, not exhaustion. "Start by remembering this moment. Every tone, every glance, every silence that let it happen." She turned to Gavin. "You once said the lobby was for registered guests. You were right, so tell me, Mr. Price, what happens when the guest owns the lobby?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. Elena stepped closer. Voice soft enough for the microphones to lean in. "Tonight, You made assumptions worth millions in damages. Tomorrow, we'll discuss whether you still work here." She lifted the folio and walked toward the elevator. Noah followed a respectful distance behind, but stopped when she raised a hand. "Let them sit with it," she said. Gavin's reflection stared back from the glass doors. Smaller, suddenly mortal. Leah clutched her reports like excuses. Chloe looked at the screen that confirmed everything she hadn't dared to believe. Tara whispered to her live stream. She didn't raise her voice once. The elevator chimed. Elena turned, eyes catching the chandelier light, black glass meeting gold. "One more thing," she said. "That handbook you all quote? Read it again, out loud. Tomorrow. Every line." The doors slid closed. Silence settled in the lobby like judgment wrapped in velvet. Outside, the city breathed neon and night. Inside, the story had already escaped, pixel by pixel. Screen by screen, Tara ended her stream with a single line. "You never know who's listening." Or who owns the silence you're standing in? The elevator shuddered once and stopped between floors. No warning, just stillness. Elena Ward glanced at the panel. No emergency lights, no alarm, only the thin hum of air conditioning. Somewhere far below, voices moved through marble like faint thunder. She touched her earpiece. "Control, this is Ward. Status?" Silence. Then Noah Grant's voice, low and taut. "Temporary lockdown, ma'am. Security protocol triggered by network traffic. We're sorting it." "Sorting," she repeated, tasting the word. "That's one way to say panic," Static answered. Downstairs, the lobby had changed temperature. The chandeliers still glowed, but their warmth was gone. Tara Field stood near a column. Her live stream still rolling, 20,000 viewers. Comments like sparks in the dark. "She really owns it. Fake documents. Look at his face." Gavin Price rubbed the back of his neck, scanning the cameras. "Turn them off," he muttered. "All of them," Leah Burns frowned. "You can't just corporate's monitoring. Then they'll watch us fix it." Noah stepped forward from the side hall, calm but anchored. "Fix what exactly?" "The narrative," Gavin said. "Do you understand what's happening online? Hashtags bleeding into news feeds. She'll ruin us before sunrise." Leah's whisper was pure calculation. "If we purge the incident logs now, corporate will only have partial footage. We can claim a system failure." Noah's jaw tightened. "System failure is still lying." "Better than unemployment," Gavin shot back. Inside the elevator, Elena pressed her palm to the cold wall. A faint vibration pulsed, subtle, rhythmic. She smiled. Someone had tried to isolate the network. Her own override system had locked the building instead. "Predictable," she murmured. Her tablet came alive with mirrored feeds. Lobby camera 1. Camera 2. Tara's live stream window in the corner. The sound was distant, but clear enough to hear Gavin's rising panic. Leah. "Delete the local drive. We'll re-upload neutral footage from last week's training session." Noah. "That's falsification." Gavin. "It's survival." Elena watched, expression unreadable. The reflection of her screen carved light across her face, half gold, half shadow. Tara's chat flooded with new messages. They're whispering, "Listen." "He's trying to hide it. This is insane. Don't stop streaming." Chloe Rivera leaned closer to Tara. "Maybe stop for now." "They're getting angry." "I'm documenting," Tara said. "This is accountability, not gossip." Her voice trembled, but didn't break. Across the desk, Gavin's finger hovered above the keyboard. "One key," he said. "That's all it takes to save the brand." Noah's reply was a whisper heavy as gravel. "Or to end it." From the elevator, Elena's voice slid through the intercom, soft, deliberate. "Mr. Grant." Everyone froze. "Yes, ma'am," Noah answered, eyes lifting toward the ceiling vent. "Don't stop them," she said. "Let them choose. Every empire shows its cracks before it learns to stand." Leah looked around. "She's listening?" Elena's chuckle echoed faintly through the speakers. "Always." Gavin's composure fractured. "You can't just spy on employees." "Correction," Elena replied. I can audit my property. And my people. Tara's camera caught Noah's expression. A man realizing he was inside a story larger than himself. A system alert flashed red across the monitors. Remote, backup, complete. Every file, every frame copied to cloud storage under Ward Global. Leah whispered, "She's recording everything." Gavin slammed the keyboard. "Shut it down!" "Too late," Noah said quietly. The upload's finished. For a heartbeat, the lobby existed only in the sound of breathing. Then the lights dimmed to half power, bathing marble in amber shadow. Elena's voice returned, softer now, like a teacher after the test. "Do you feel it?" she asked. "That weight pressing down?" "It isn't me. It's your own reflection." Gavin looked up at the black dome of the nearest camera. Its lens gleamed back like a pupil. In the elevator, Elena closed the tablet. The floor indicator blinked back to life. PH, penthouse suite. The lock released with a quiet sigh. She straightened, smoothing her sleeve. "Control elevator reset confirmed," Noah's voice said through the comm. "Good," Elena replied. "Keep recording, Mr. Grant, every second." "Yes, ma'am." She watched the numbers climb. The reflection of the city skyline slid across the mirrored wall, skyscrapers dissolving into mist. Somewhere below, Leah was whispering to Gavin again. "If we move fast, we can still—" Their words vanished under the soft closing of the elevator doors. When Elena stepped into the corridor of the top floor, she paused. From here, the city looked unreal, silver veins under black glass. Her phone vibrated, a message from corporate PR. Viral, trending worldwide. Awaiting directive. She typed one line back. "Let it trend. Truth needs circulation." Then she pocketed the phone and whispered, almost to the empty air, "Let's see who they become when the world is watching." Below, the lobby resumed its shallow breathing. Tara still streamed. Noah still watched. Gavin still searched for an exit that didn't exist, and above them all, Elena Ward smiled into the dark glass. The Empire was awake. The control room pulsed with low light and static. Screens lined the walls like a jury, each showing the same frozen image of the lobby below. Gavin Price stood. Near the center console, his tie loosened. His confidence in fragments. "Did she just say record everything?" Leah whispered. "She's bluffing," Gavin snapped. "Corporate can't see internal feeds without my access codes." Noah Grant's eyes never left the monitors. "You mean the code stored on your personal drive? The one linked to your work account?" "Yeah. Then she already has them." Gavin turned sharply. "What do you mean?" Noah nodded toward the top corner of the screen. A single icon blinked. Ward override active. Leah's breath caught. "Oh my God." "She planned this." "Planned?" Noah's tone was low, reverent. "She engineered it. The lockdown, the feed, the redundancy backups. She built the net and waited for us to walk into it." Gavin's hand hovered over the power switch. "Then I'll cut the grid." "You cut it," Noah said, "and the emergency failsafe will notify every regional director within 60 seconds. Leah sank into a chair. "We're finished." "No," Gavin muttered. "Not if we control the narrative." He moved closer to the console. "We spin it. Say we followed procedure. That she arrived without proper ID, we—" "She's on record, Gavin," Noah interrupted. "You accuse the owner of fraud on camera. In front of half the internet." Gavin's laugh was hollow. "Then maybe she shouldn't look like—" He stopped himself, too late. The silence that followed had weight. Even the screen seemed to lean away from him. Leah stared at him as if seeing a stranger. "That's what this is really about for you, isn't it?" she said quietly. "Not protocol, not safety, just what she looks like." He didn't answer. Noah turned from the monitors. His voice came out steady. "I've worked security long enough to know when something's wrong. What you did downstairs wasn't protection. It was prejudice in a suit." Leah stood, crossing her arms. "So what do we do now? Wait for corporate to bury us?" Noah leaned against the console, arms folded. "No, we tell the truth before she does," Gavin scoffed. "You think that saves us?" It might save who we are, Noah said. Because right now, that's all we've got left. The intercom crackled. Elena's voice entered the room like a shadow stepping through light. You're close, Mr. Grant. Keep going. Gavin flinched. She's listening again. How? Leah whispered. She never left. Elena's tone stayed calm, nearly warm. This room has 27 microphones, 3 motion sensors, and an AI trigger that detects stress levels in speech. I designed it after our last lawsuit. Noah met the nearest camera. You wanted to see what we'd do when nobody was watching. Correction, Elena replied. When you thought nobody was? Leah's composure broke. Ms. Ward, please. I was following orders. He was my supervisor, and your conscience? Elena asked softly. Leah's lip trembled. I didn't mean harm. You meant convenience, Elena said. That's how bias survives. It hides behind efficiency. Gavin slammed a fist against the console. Enough with the lectures. You think you're saving the world by humiliating us? Elena's pause was surgical. I'm not saving the world, Mr. Price. I'm auditing it. Noah's shoulders straightened. The words carried a strange gravity, cold, deliberate, unyielding. Gavin turned toward him, eyes wild. You're just going to stand there and let her destroy us? Noah's answer came slow, quiet. She's not destroying us. We already did that. A message flashed across the central screen. Incoming feed, Ward Global HQ. The logo appeared, followed by rows of observers joining remotely. Executives, legal counsel, public relations, faces in half-light, waiting. Elena's image appeared in the largest frame. Calm as a verdict. Good evening, she said. We'll begin documentation now. This recording is property of Ward Global Holdings. Continue your discussion, Leah swallowed. Miss Ward, Speak honestly, Elena said. It's your only currency left. Leah exhaled, tears catching the monitor's glow. I was afraid. Afraid to question authority. Afraid to look weak. Fear is teachable, Elena said. Accountability is not. You'll learn one. The other, you'll live with. Gavin stepped forward until his face filled the central camera. You think this little performance makes you righteous? You're playing God with people's lives. No, Elena replied. Just reminding them who writes the rules. He hesitated, searching for defiance. Found none. Then what happens to me? Elena's eyes held his through the glass. You go on record. Right now, explain why you saw threat instead of guessed. He opened his mouth, closed it again. Words didn't come. Excuses turned to dust, Leah whispered. Gavin, he shook his head. There's nothing left to say. Elena's image softened. Not sympathy, but conclusion. Then we're done here. Noah looked at the floor monitors as the feed ended one by one. Silence returned. But it was heavier now, truth-shaped. He turned toward the nearest camera. You're watching this, aren't you, ma'am? Elena's voice came through the speaker, almost like a smile. Always, Mr. Grant. The screen flickered, her reflection half lit, half shadow. Then she said, Every empire tests its walls before rebuilding them. Tonight, you discovered yours. Static swallowed the image. In the dim room, Noah exhaled. Leah sank into her chair, head in hands. Gavin stared at the black monitor, seeing nothing but himself. Outside, dawn began to climb the glass facade of the Orion, and somewhere above, in the penthouse suite, the woman they underestimated was already writing the next chapter. Outside, the city had begun to glow, billboards humming, glass towers reflecting their own vanity. Inside the Orion, the lobby was a theater of whispers. Tara Fields stood near the velvet rope where the air still remembered Elena Ward's voice. Her phone trembled in her hands. Live stream count climbing past 30,000. Still streaming, she murmured. They need to see what happens after. The comments flooded in. Is she gone? Was that real? She's the owner? Holy? Tara's lens shifted toward the reception desk. Gavin Price was gone. Leah Burns sat motionless behind the counter. Her expression, the color of regret. Chloe Rivera cleaned the same polished spot again and again, as though erasing fingerprints could rewrite the story. Noah Grant stood by the entrance, Arms crossed, watching the revolving doors. He wasn't guarding. He was waiting. Somewhere above, a single light shone from the penthouse floor. Tara pointed her camera upward. "She's still there," she whispered. "The woman they tried to humiliate." Her audience responded instantly. "We're staying until she comes back. This is history in real time. Corporate racism exposed live. Watch this." Noah approached her. "You might want to stop recording." Tara didn't flinch. "You want this buried too?" "No," he said quietly. "I want you to understand the weight of what you're holding." She met his gaze through the blue glow of her screen. "I do. The truth." Noah sighed. "Truth is heavier than you think." In the control room, Leah's voice shook. "She's trending #1 worldwide." Orion audit. "News networks are quoting the stream." Gavin's reflection appeared behind her, eyes sunken. "Then we control it. Issue a statement. Say it was a misunderstanding." Leah turned in her chair. "A misunderstanding?" Her laugh cracked. "You accuse the CEO of theft on camera." "Then we call it an internal training exercise," Gavin snapped. "She's testing diversity compliance. She'll confirm it." "She won't," Leah whispered. You saw her face. Upstairs in the penthouse, Elena stood before floor-to-ceiling glass, watching the city flicker. Her reflection floated over the skyline like a phantom, half real, half light. On her tablet, the livestream feed played in silence. Tara's voice drifted through the speakers. "She's still here." "The woman who owns the lobby." Elena traced the edge of the screen with one finger. "They're telling the story for me," she said softly. A voice responded from the doorway. "You planned that." Noah had entered quietly. He held his cap in one hand, posture caught between soldier and witness. "Planned what?" Elena asked. He gestured toward the tablet. "The live stream. The exposure. You let it spread." Elena turned back to the window. "Sunlight is the best disinfectant." Noah hesitated. "You could have stopped it hours ago." "I could have," she agreed. "But truth dies in private. It needs an audience." Downstairs, Tara's phone buzzed, an incoming message from an unknown number. "Step outside." She hesitated. Then, curiosity winning over caution, she moved toward the glass doors. Outside, the night was sharp and silver. Across the street, a black sedan waited. A woman in a tailored suit stepped out. One of Elena's corporate aides. Tara Fields? "Yes." Ms. Ward sent this. The aide handed her a sleek envelope embossed with the Orion emblem. Inside, a single line handwritten in gold ink. "Keep recording. But aim higher." E.W. Tara looked up, stunned. The aide was already walking away. Noah's radio buzzed. "Sir, livestream just spiked. 50,000 viewers." He tapped his earpiece. "Copy." Elena glanced toward him. "They're multiplying faster than lies." "What happens when the storm ends?" Noah asked. Elena smiled faintly. "Then we count who's still standing." At the reception desk, Leah closed her laptop. "It's over, Gavin. Just stop." He stared at the blank monitor. "Do you know what happens when your name trends with the word racism? You don't recover from that." "Maybe you shouldn't have given them a reason," she said quietly. He looked at her, eyes rimmed with panic. "You think she'll really fire us?" Leah's answer was a whisper that hurt more than shouting. "I think she already did." In the penthouse, Elena adjusted her sleeve cuffs, elegant and precise. "Mr. Grant," she said, "prepare a conference feed. Invite every department head. In 10 minutes, the world will hear our statement." "What are you going to say?" he asked. Elena looked past him toward the skyline. "The truth. But in a language even silence understands." Her phone chimed. Another notification from Tara's stream. To 421 watching. Elena breathed once, slow and even. "Let them watch," she said. "It's time they see how reform begins." Downstairs, Tara ended her stream only long enough to type a caption for her next broadcast. "She's going live." The CEO who turned humiliation into history. The post went viral before she could hit send. Above, the penthouse lights brightened. Below, the lobby seemed to exhale. The city was awake now, every screen glowing with her name. every eye reflecting her face, and in that electric quiet, Elena Ward prepared to speak to the world she'd just unmasked. The world tilted toward the screen. Every device in the city glowed with the same headline. CEO speaks tonight. The Orion scandal goes global. In the penthouse, Elena Ward stood beneath soft gold light, adjusting the microphone clipped to her collar. No makeup crew, no script. Just her voice and a room full of ghosts. Noah Grant positioned the camera, its red light blinking like a heartbeat. "You're live in 30, he said. 30 seconds? She asked. He nodded. 30 million viewers. Downstairs, Tara Fields started a fresh stream, her voice a low current of awe. "She's about to speak," she whispered. "No PR filters. No teleprompter. Just the woman they called a fraud." Chloe Rivera stood beside her, trembling but determined. "She's not just speaking for herself. For all of us," Tara finished. The lobby was silent now. Guests gathered like witnesses in a quiet cathedral. "Going live," Noah said. The screen flickered once, then filled with Elena's face, calm, sharp, unafraid. "Good evening," she began. Her tone wasn't theatrical. It was surgical. Hours ago, a black woman walked into her own hotel and was told she didn't belong. She was called a liar, a thief. She was nearly escorted out of a building she built, funded, and believed in. Every newsroom in the country froze. Every phone in every hand went still. Elena continued, "That woman was me." She let the silence breathe. And what happened tonight isn't a singular mistake. It's a mirror, one that reflects what happens in boardrooms. Restaurants, airports, every day, unseen, unrecorded, unchallenged. In the control room, Leah Burns stared at the monitor, eyes red. She's not angry," she whispered. Gavin Price stood behind her, face hollow. "She doesn't need to be." On screen, Elena's voice softened. "I didn't plan to humiliate anyone. I planned to observe. But when prejudice speaks loudly enough, it creates its own broadcast." She looked directly into the camera. "To every employee who laughed when they should have listened, this isn't revenge, it's reform." Tara's chat exploded. "She's brilliant. This is history accountability, live." In one corner of the feed, news anchors began restreaming her video, adding live captions. Orion audit trended on 3 continents. Elena's tone deepened. Accountability isn't punishment. It's perspective. If you know better and still choose wrong, you lose the right to call it ignorance. She paused. "That's why, effective immediately, the Orion Group will undergo full reconstruction. Management review, diversity oversight, community inclusion boards. Every guest who's ever filed a complaint will receive a personal response from me, Noah." Looked up from behind the camera. The weight of those words felt like tectonic plates. Shifting, Elena's next sentence carried no tremor. "And to the millions watching, this story isn't mine alone. Send your experiences. Tell me where dignity failed. We will build a system that listens." In the lobby, Tara lowered her phone for the first time in hours. Chloe covered her mouth, tears breaking the composure she'd been holding. "She's rewriting what leadership looks like," Chloe whispered. Tara nodded. "And we're watching it happen." Gavin turned away from the control screens, his reflection ghosting across the glass. Leah's voice cracked. "You could have stopped all of this. One moment of kindness and this would have been different." He didn't respond. His silence was an epitaph. On screen, Elena finished her address. "Tonight isn't about blame," she said. "It's about recognition, because silence doesn't protect systems. It preserves them, and I intend to break that silence." She lifted the corner of a small plaque resting on her desk, reading the engraved words aloud. "Respect is our richest currency." Her voice thinned to a whisper. "I carved that sentence before this hotel ever opened. Now, finally, it means something." The feed faded to black. Noah shut off the camera. "It's done," Elena exhaled slowly. "No, it's beginning." Through the penthouse window, flashes of camera lights blinked from the streets below. Hundreds of strangers gathered. their faces glowing blue in the night. "Look," Noah said quietly. "They came." Elena smiled, faint but real. "Change always draws a crowd. The trick is keeping them when the lights fade." Her phone vibrated. An incoming message from corporate HQ. "Board requests emergency meeting. 8 a.m. She typed one line. "Tell them to bring mirrors." Downstairs, Tara ended her broadcast and turned to Chloe. "What now?" Chloe looked up toward the penthouse floor. "Now, we make sure we deserve her faith." They stood together in the quiet lobby, surrounded by polished marble and the echo of a single sentence that refused to fade. "Respect is our richest currency." Outside, dawn broke over the city. Not loud, not triumphant, but steady. Because sometimes revolution doesn't roar, it simply begins broadcasting. 2 days after the broadcast, the Orion no longer felt alive. It breathed, yes, but shallow, like a city after fire. The lobby was spotless again. But the silence between footsteps carried weight. Guests still came and went, pretending not to stare. Reporters waited outside, their cameras pointed toward the revolving doors like patient predators. Leah Burns walked in at 8:01 a.m., holding her employee ID the way a sinner might hold a candle. Her shoes clicked softly against marble that had witnessed too much truth. The others watched but said nothing. Someone whispered her name. Someone else looked away. At her desk, a single envelope waited, white, unmarked. Inside, a summons to the 11th floor. Conference Hall, A9 a.m. Mandatory attendance, signed, E. Ward. Leah sat still for a long moment. She had dreamt of this meeting every night since the live stream. Every headline screamed her guilt. Every message board judged her tone, her laughter, her silence. And yet, she was still here, still an employee, at least for one more hour. When the clock struck 9, the elevator doors opened with the sound of finality. The conference hall shimmered with restraint. Black glass table, brushed steel chairs, morning light spilling through half-open blinds. Marcus Grant stood by the door, now wearing a charcoal suit instead of a security uniform. His badge read, Head of Guest Advocacy. His presence alone kept the room still. Elena Ward entered last. No entourage, no press. Only a small black notebook in her hand. Every head turned. No one breathed. She placed the notebook on the table, its cover stamped in gold, the Ward handbook. For a full minute, she said nothing. The ticking of a clock somewhere in the wall became unbearable. Finally, she spoke. When rules fail to protect people, you don't rewrite the rules. You rewrite the people who enforce them. Her tone was neither harsh nor kind. It was balanced the way truth often is. This, she tapped the book lightly, is our new standard. Not a manual, a mirror. Leah stared at the black cover, her pulse quickening. The word handbook felt too small for what it contained. Elena opened to the first page. Her voice, calm as rainfall, filled the room. Section 01, the mirror clause. If your instinct is to judge, pause. You may be looking at yourself. The sentence landed like a slow echo. She turned another page. Section 0.2, the door policy. Welcome first, verify second, in that order. Marcus watched the faces around the table. Some nodded. Some looked ashamed. Elena continued reading. Section 0.4, the apology principle. When dignity is broken, fix it publicly, not privately. Shame thrives in darkness. A murmur rippled through the staff. The words were sharper than any reprimand. Then she looked up. This handbook is not about punishment. It's about permanence. I don't want better behavior for a week. I want better instincts for a lifetime. Leah found herself standing before she even realized it. Ms. Ward, she said softly. May I speak? Elena's eyes met hers. Yes, I was wrong, Leah said. The words trembled but didn't collapse. I thought following orders made me safe. I thought silence was neutral. But it wasn't. It was consent. The room stayed quiet. Elena listened, expression unreadable. Leah's voice steadied. If there's any place for people like me to help rebuild this, I want to earn it. I don't want forgiveness. I want work. Elena closed the notebook. Reform isn't forgiveness, she said. It's work. I'll hold you to that. Leah nodded, tears falling freely now. No one looked away. Elena walked to the window. The morning light cut through the glass like a verdict. Below, Chicago moved with its usual rhythm. Taxis, pedestrians, the city pretending nothing had changed. Marcus stepped closer. "They're afraid, ma'am," he said quietly. "So was I," Elena replied. "The difference is I learned to use it." She placed the handbook on the ledge. The pages fluttered open to a single line written in elegant script. Dignity, a policy with no expiration. She whispered it once, almost to herself, and turned back to the room. "When I bought this company, I thought I was purchasing buildings, brands, revenue. I was wrong. I was buying responsibility for every voice that ever felt small inside these walls." The staff listened, unmoving. She took one step closer to them. "This handbook will sit at every desk, not as decoration, but as witness. If you fail it, it will outlive you. If you honor it, it will remember you." The blinds shifted, sunlight striking her face. For a moment, she looked both tired and invincible. Leah whispered, "What happens now?" Elena smiled faintly. "Now we begin to earn the title Grand." Outside, the light grew stronger, washing the room in gold. The handbook remained open on the sill, its ink gleaming like a quiet promise. And for the first time since the scandal, the Orion breathed, slow, deep, alive. By noon, the building had changed its pulse. The Orion no longer whispered about shame. It murmured about rules, possibilities, new beginnings. Every desk bore a copy of the ward handbook, black and gold, its spine sharp against polished wood. Marcus Grant moved through the corridors with measured steps. He passed clusters of employees studying the pages as though decoding scripture. Each section was simple, brutal, unforgettable. If respect is conditional, it isn't respect. Empathy is not a department. Never mistake patience for weakness. He stopped near the front desk where Sarah Mitchell stood, reciting quietly to herself. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were clear. Marcus smiled faintly. "Section 2.1? If your tone changes with skin color, your employment ends where your sentence does," she replied. He nodded. "Keep that one close." In the executive suite above, Elena Ward leaned over a stack of reports. Every number was a pulse: guest ratings, complaint logs, community correspondence. Each page whispered the same question: is change measurable? She looked up as the door opened. Leah entered carrying a folder. "Status update, ma'am," Leah said quietly. All staff signed the acknowledgement forms. Most have finished their first ethics module. And she hesitated. "Gavin Price?" Elena asked. Leah nodded. "He filed for transfer. Lower position. Different state." Elena's eyes softened, not with pity, but understanding. Sometimes exile is the first step to understanding home. Leah blinked. "You're letting him stay in the company?" "For now," Elena said. "Punishment teaches obedience. Opportunity teaches reflection." She closed the folder and rose. "Walk with me." They descended to the mezzanine, once a quiet lounge, now transformed into a training floor. Posters lined the walls, not with slogans but questions. Who did you underestimate today? Would your service sound the same if no one could see the guest? Elena paused near the center table, where a dozen trainees sat in silence. She tapped her knuckles lightly against the surface. "What are we learning today?" A young man raised his hand. "Perspective," he said. "We were asked to serve coffee blindfolded, to understand tone without sight." Elena smiled slightly. "And what did you discover?" "That I listen better when I can't see." Her nod was slow. "Then you've learned the first rule of hospitality, to notice the invisible." Leah watched her in silence. There was something unteachable about Elena's presence. Composed, alive, purposeful. The room didn't just hear her. It aligned itself around her. Later, in her office, Marcus entered with 2 envelopes. Reports from legal and PR, he said. Media coverage remains positive. The Community Oversight Board is forming. Dr. Henderson accepted the liaison role. Elena exhaled. Good, what about the protests outside? Gone, Marcus said. They left after hearing your speech replayed on the outdoor screens. Elena looked out the window, where the plaza once filled with shouting now glittered with quiet order. Sometimes, she murmured. Peace sounds suspicious after too much noise. Marcus studied her. You haven't slept, have you? She smiled. I rest between crises, he chuckled softly. Then this one's ending. No, she replied, eyes still on the skyline. It's mutating. Leah reappeared, tablet in hand. You asked me to compile anonymous staff reflections. I think you should read this one. She handed over the device. Elena scrolled, reading aloud. I used to think fairness was something you practiced when someone important was watching. Now I think it's what you do when no one is recording. She lowered the tablet, her expression unreadable. Who wrote this? Sarah Mitchell, Leah said. Elena nodded once. Then she's the future of this brand. Outside, rain began to fall, soft, deliberate. Cleansing. It tapped against the glass like fingertips. Elena opened the window slightly, letting the scent of the storm drift through. The city lights shimmered beneath the gray, their reflections trembling in the puddles below. She turned back toward her desk, where the ward handbook lay open to a blank final page. Marcus noticed. You left the last section empty. Not empty, Elena said. Waiting. For what? For the next mistake, she replied. That's how living documents breathe. Leah hesitated near the doorway. You think we'll still make them? Of course, Elena said. But now we'll know what they cost. Marcus picked up the handbook, flipping to the first page. He traced the embossed gold letters with his thumb. You know this will end up in every hospitality school in the country, right? Elena smiled faintly. Then maybe the next generation will start where we should have. Leah looked between them. And you? What will you do now that the storm's quiet? Elena turned toward the window again. The reflection of her face merged with the city lights. Part woman, part skyline, part myth. I'll wait, she said softly. Every calm is just the inhale before the next reckoning. Thunder murmured in agreement somewhere over the lake. Below, the front doors of the Orion opened for a new guest, an elderly black woman carrying a weathered suitcase. Sarah greeted her with a smile that reached her eyes. Welcome to the Orion, she said. We're honored to have you. Elena watched from above, a small curve forming at the corner of her mouth. This time, there were no scripts. No fear, just dignity. The rain thickened, blurring the glass until the city outside became watercolor, and through it all, the gold lettering on the open handbook gleamed faintly in the dim light. Dignity, a policy with no expiration. 3 weeks later, the city was still talking, not in shouts anymore, in essays, think pieces, interviews, and quiet dinner debates. The Orion incident had become more than a headline. It had become a mirror held to a country's face. At the University of Chicago, a lecture hall overflowed with students. On the screen above them, frozen mid-sentence, was Elena Ward, the woman who had turned humiliation into reform. Professor Layla Monroe paced before the crowd, her voice carrying calm authority. She didn't just fire people, the professor said. She rewrote accountability. She made ethics a live event. That's leadership in a surveillance age? A hand rose from the back row. Do you think it was calculated? A student asked. That she knew the live stream would go viral? Monroe smiled faintly. Intent doesn't matter as much as courage. The world doesn't change because someone plans it. It changes because someone refuses to flinch. The lights dimmed slightly. On screen, Elena's voice played, Silence doesn't protect systems, it preserves them. Applause rippled through the hall. Not the polite kind. The kind that begins in the chest and ends in the throat. Across town, in a cramped newsroom filled with the scent of stale coffee and deadlines, reporter Jonah Kim replayed the same footage on a loop. He was writing a retrospective, The Night the Handbook Was Born. He leaned toward his microphone, recording his notes. 3 weeks later, revenue up 30%. Staff retention doubled. Complaint rate? 0. He paused, then added softer. But the numbers aren't the story. The story is what happens when power decides to look inward. His editor leaned over the cubicle. Still obsessed, Jonah? Still learning, Jonah said. She's not a saint, you know. No, Jonah replied, eyes on the screen. That's why she's worth writing about. At the Orion, the rhythm of the building had found its balance again. The lobby smelled of citrus and new linen. Not tension. The air hummed with quiet efficiency, like an orchestra tuning before dawn. Marcus Grant crossed the marble floor, clipboard in hand. He passed a group of new hires clustered around Sarah Mitchell, who now wore a supervisor badge. Remember, Sarah told them, our policy isn't service first. It's respect first. Everything else follows. A young trainee asked, what if a guest insults us? Sarah smiled. Then you outclass them? Marcus stopped listening. The words fit perfectly. You sound like her, he said. Sarah looked up. That's the point. Upstairs, Elena sat in her office, surrounded by silence that felt too deliberate. Her assistant, Maya, hovered near the door. Another interview request, BBC this time. Decline. Elena said without looking up. They want to feature the handbook in a global leadership series. Decline politely, she repeated. Maya hesitated. People are calling you the reform icon. Elena closed the file she'd been reading. Icons don't change systems. They decorate them. Maya smiled nervously. You know that line will probably end up on a t-shirt. Elena's lips curved almost into laughter. Then make sure it's printed on fair trade cotton. Her desk phone buzzed. Marcus. Ms. Ward, there's someone here to see you. Says she's not a reporter. Name? Patricia Wong. Elena froze for half a breath. Send her in. Patricia stepped through the door moments later, smaller than memory, but still carrying the air of someone used to command. She held no papers, no rehearsed speech, only the weight of what she'd done. Elena, Patricia began, voice unsteady. I came to apologize. Again. Elena gestured toward the chair across from her. Sit. Patricia obeyed. For weeks, she said, I've been replaying that night. I keep wondering, when did I stop seeing people? Elena studied her quietly. When the rules became louder than your empathy? Patricia swallowed. You're right. I'd like to help now, however I can. Elena opened a drawer and slid across a sealed envelope. Inside is a recommendation letter. For community work, not corporate. The Urban League's mentorship program could use someone who understands failure. Patricia's eyes filled. You'd trust me with that? I trust people who admit they broke something, Elena said. They handle fragile things more carefully. Later that evening, Elena stood by the floor-to-ceiling window again, city lights pulsing below. The handbook rested on the sill, a living relic. Her phone buzzed with another message from Jonah Kim. For my article, why did you name it the Ward Handbook? She typed back, because every wall needs a ward. Every system needs someone watching. She looked down at the plaza where a small crowd had gathered. Activists, students, guests, holding printed copies of her handbook like lanterns. Their voices rose in unison, faint but clear. Dignity, a policy with no expiration. Marcus appeared behind her. They're chanting your words again. They're not mine anymore, she said. That's how I know they worked. He nodded slowly. What will you write next? Elena looked at the skyline, black glass, gold veins, and the ghost of her own reflection. Not a book, she said softly. A blueprint. Outside, thunder rolled over the lake again, not as a warning, as a promise. And for the first time since that night, the Orion felt lighter, not redeemed, just awake. Midnight found Elena Ward alone again. The city below shimmered like liquid glass, restless and wide awake. In her office, the only light came from a single lamp and the faint blue glow of her tablet. An unread message blinked on screen. Subject, internal review, board inquiry. Sender: Michael Carter. Vice President, Ward Global. She opened it. While the public response to the handbook remains favorable, the board has concerns about overexposure. They request a reduction of your public appearances and reconsideration of ongoing community partnerships. Please confirm compliance. She read it twice, then placed the tablet face down. The room dimmed, as though the message itself had stolen light. For the first time in weeks, she laughed softly, the kind of laugh that comes from knowing power always circles back to its old tricks. Morning arrived gray and slow. The board meeting convened at 9 a.m. sharp, via video link from the corporate tower uptown. Rows of faces filled the screen. Immaculate. Polite, cautious, Ms. Ward, Michael Carter began, his tone perfectly measured. The Orion situation has been a remarkable case study. However, your continued visibility raises questions of risk. Elena leaned back in her chair. Risk to whom? Our shareholders, Carter said. And the brand. Activism tends to polarize markets. She folded her hands. So does apathy. A faint murmur rippled through the digital gallery. Carter cleared his throat. No one is questioning your results, only your approach. My approach, she said, prevented a lawsuit, doubled revenue, and rebuilt trust. Which part offends the shareholders? Success or accountability? Public morality is not always good for business, another voice added. Elena's eyes narrowed. Then perhaps business needs a new definition of good. The silence that followed was long, expensive, and heavy. After the call, she walked down to the mezzanine. Marcus was there, overseeing the day's orientation. The trainees stood in a circle, reading aloud passages from the ward handbook. A young man recited, Section 3.5, when profit and principle argue, listen to the one that sleeps better? Elena smiled. That section cost me friends, Marcus approached quietly. Board meeting? She nodded. Their worried dignity doesn't monetize fast enough, he grinned. Then they've never seen what happens when people believe in their work. Later that afternoon, she met with Leah and Sarah in the staff lounge. The atmosphere was informal. Coffee cups, laughter, a table scattered with new training materials. Leah said, We've had requests from 2 other hotel chains asking for copies of the handbook. They want to adapt it. Elena stirred her coffee. Then send it. No license fees, Sarah blinked. Free? Yes, Elena said. Integrity shouldn't be patented, Leah smiled. You realize that's the opposite of how corporations think? That's why it might work. Outside, the rain returned, soft, unhurried, tapping like fingertips on the glass. Elena stood near the window again. The skyline, a painting in motion. Her reflection blended with the city's veins of gold. Behind her, Sarah's voice carried quietly. You ever think about that night? The lobby, the live stream, everything? Elena didn't turn. Every day. Would you change anything? She hesitated. Maybe one thing. What's that? I would have checked in under my real name sooner, she said with a small smile. But then, maybe they needed to fail first. Sarah nodded slowly. I used to think leadership was about control. Now I think it's about restraint. Elena looked back at her. It's both. Control builds walls. Restraint decides where the doors go. That evening, Jonah Kim's article went live. Its headline read, The Quiet Revolution of Elena Ward. The opening line, when power finally learned to apologize, it sounded like her. The story spread across continents. News anchors quoted her handbook. Universities added her speech to ethics curriculums. The Orion became a synonym for reform done right. And yet, in her office, Elena felt the same steady hum of unfinished work. She opened the ward handbook again. Flipping to the blank page at the end, she picked up a pen and wrote Section 10.00, the Horizon Clause. When the system adapts, evolve again. Comfort is the enemy of justice. She set the pen down, reading the line until it felt alive. Marcus knocked softly on the door. You're still writing? Always, she said. He stepped in, glancing at the page. You think anyone will notice that addition? They will when it hurts, she said, closing the book. Board won't like it. They didn't like the handbook either. And yet here we are, he chuckled. You ever get tired of fighting? Elena looked up, her expression calm but bright. I'm not fighting, Marcus. I'm building friction. The spark needs somewhere to live. Outside, the storm deepened, thunder rolling over the lake. The neon lights of the city flickered, refracted through rain like broken constellations. Elena stood by the window one last time that night, watching the skyline breathe. Below, the hotel's front entrance shimmered in reflection, not as marble and glass, but as purpose. She whispered to herself, a vow rather than a prayer. Let the next mistake find me ready. Lightning traced the horizon, outlining the words engraved on the plaque in the lobby. Dignity, a policy with no expiration. And as the power flickered once, twice, then steadied, Elena Ward smiled. The empire was awake again. Not flawless, not finished, but alive. The first blow did not come from an enemy. It came from the market. At 7:32 a.m., the stock ticker glowed red across every screen in the Ward Global headquarters. The Orion Group, once the company's proudest branch, had fallen 11 points overnight. Reporters called it the backlash. Investors called it the Ward effect. In her office, Elena read the headlines in silence. Virtue doesn't pay. CEO turns hotels into moral lectures. Guests want service, not salvation. She closed the tablet. The truth wasn't in the numbers. It was in the tone, mocking, cynical, afraid. Marcus entered quietly, holding a cup of black coffee. They're blaming the handbook, he said. They were bound to, Elena replied. People mistake reflection for rebellion. He set the cup down. The board called an emergency session. They want explanations. Of course they do, she said. Profit fell, so did faith. By mid-morning, the glass conference room was full, 12 board members. 12 different shades of discomfort. Elena took her seat at the head of the table, every gaze like a loaded question. Michael Carter began. Ms. Ward, our quarterly returns have declined. Franchise partners in New York and Dubai are requesting exemptions from your new compliance model. They claim it alienates their clientele. Elena folded her hands. It alienates their prejudice. Semantics, Carter said. We need a correction. Across the table, another director leaned forward. We appreciate your ideals, but business relies on neutrality. You've made us political. Neutrality, Elena said softly, is just the luxury of those already comfortable. Murmurs broke out. A woman in pearls tapped her pen. You can't run a company on philosophy. Elena's gaze stayed steady. I'm not running a company. I'm repairing its conscience. The room went cold. Carter sighed. Miss Ward, perception drives value. And right now, you are the perception. Then perhaps value needs a new metric, she said. Outside, Jonah Kim watched the meeting from the lobby feed, headphones in, notebook open. His editor's voice buzzed through the line. Jonah, we're hearing rumors of financial misconduct. Something about diverted charity funds. Can you confirm? Jonah frowned. There's no evidence of that. Find some, his editor said. Or someone else will. He ended the call uneasy. He had covered Elena long enough to know she wasn't clean in the corporate sense, but corruption didn't fit her vocabulary. Still, the whispers had weight. Anonymous sources. Misused accounts. The woman who preached integrity, now under audit. He looked up at the gold plaque in the lobby. Dignity. A policy with no expiration, and wondered how long belief could outlive rumor. At dusk, the first news alert hit every phone. Ward Global under investigation for misallocation of ethics program funds. No evidence. No statement. Just the echo. Elena stood by the window, city lights bleeding through the rain. Maya entered with trembling hands. Ma'am, the auditors are downstairs. They want access to your personal accounts. Let them in, Elena said. Marcus stared at her.
You think this is real?
It doesn't matter, she replied. Perception becomes truth faster than proof. The rain intensified, streaking down the glass like ink. That night, Jonah received an encrypted file from an unknown address. Inside, internal emails, budget transfers, timestamps. The data pointed to the same account that funded the Urban League reforms, Elena's signature attached. He reread it twice. Something felt off. The wording was wrong. Too precise, as if written for exposure. Still, a story that big could make or break a career. He opened a blank document. Sources within Ward Global suggest that the Reform Fund... He stopped typing. He could already see the headline forming. He could already hear the damage. He closed the laptop instead. At 3 a.m., the Orion was quiet except for the sound of paper shredders in the accounting department. Elena walked through the corridor barefoot, holding the handbook like scripture. She stopped near the framed mirror in the hall, her reflection older, sharper, uncertain. Marcus caught up to her. "You should rest." "I can't," she said. "They're coming for the symbol, not the truth." "Then fight them." She looked at him, eyes dark and steady. "If I fight, I become them. I'll do something worse instead. What's that? Tell the truth before they twist it." Morning broke gray and merciless. Press vans gathered outside the Orion. Reporters shouted questions through the drizzle. Elena stepped forward, rain dampening her suit, the handbook clutched in one hand. Microphones surrounded her like bayonets. "Ms. Ward, did you misuse corporate funds? Are the allegations true? Will you resign?" She waited for silence, then spoke softly. "The money in question went where it was always meant to go, into the hands of those who were ignored. If that's a crime, then I am guilty of justice." Flashbulbs exploded. The sound was thunder made of light. She turned toward the doors. Every system that evolves must shed its old skin. Sometimes that skin bleeds. And without another word, she walked back inside. By evening, the rain had stopped. But the storm had only begun. Inside the hotel, screens flashed with breaking news. Elena Ward's name trended again, this time beside the word indicted. Marcus watched the reports roll in, jaw set. Jonah watched too, his cursor blinking on a blank page. Both men knew what it meant to see truth under attack, and far above them, behind the mirrored glass of her office, Elena Ward stared at the skyline. She looked neither defeated nor proud, only awake. The morning after the indictment, the Orion stood in silence, not the clean kind, the kind that follows betrayal. Every TV in the lobby played the same loop. Elena Ward leaving her office in handcuffs, rain pooling around her heels. The chyron beneath her face read, "CEO arrested in Ethics Fund probe." Sarah Mitchell turned off the nearest screen. "She didn't steal anything," she whispered. "We all know that." Marcus Grant placed a hand on her shoulder. Knowing isn't the same as proving. He stared toward the elevator, where agents had led Elena out hours earlier. The marble still glistened from the storm. The plaque still gleamed. Dignity, a policy with no expiration. At the detention center downtown, fluorescent light carved shadows under Elena's eyes. She sat across from Jonah Kim, who had fought through a wall of reporters just to reach her. "I didn't write the story," he said quickly. "They ran it without me. I tried to stop them." Elena smiled faintly. "You don't owe me redemption, Jonah." "But I owe you truth," he said. "The documents were fabricated. I traced the metadata. The timestamps lead to Carter's office." "Michael Carter?" He nodded. "He leaked falsified transfers. The board wanted you discredited before the shareholder meeting next week. They couldn't control you, so they cut your power." Elena leaned back, exhaling slowly. "Of course. Justice doesn't die from enemies. It dies from allies with better suits." Jonah pressed his hands to the table. "Let me publish this. I can clear your name." She shook her head. "Not yet. Why not?" "Because if you expose them now, the system collapses. Thousands of employees lose their jobs. Real people pay for their greed. I won't make martyrs out of them." Jonah stared at her, speechless. "You're protecting them?" I'm protecting the people who never had a say, she said quietly. But I will resign. Publicly. On my terms. By the time she was released, the city was watching, outside the courthouse. Cameras flashed like gunfire. Her lawyer tried to shield her. But Elena brushed his hand aside. She walked straight to the podium set up for the press. No teleprompter. No script. Just rain, wind, and resolve. I will step down as CEO of Ward Global, she said, her voice steady. Not because I am guilty, but because this company deserves to grow without my shadow. A reporter shouted, "Are you admitting wrongdoing?" Elena met the question with a calm that silenced the crowd. My only wrongdoing, she said, was believing that conscience could be scaled like revenue. She paused. The microphones trembled from the wind. But make no mistake, the handbook will remain. The reforms will remain. You can remove the name, but not the truth it carried, the crowd murmured. Someone began to clap. Then another, within seconds. The sound built into a roar. Elena stepped back, eyes glistening. The applause echoing through the courthouse steps like judgment turned to grace. 2 days later, in her nearly empty office, Marcus entered carrying a single box, her belongings. The city skyline glowed behind her, the same view she'd stood before 100 times. Only now without weight. It's official, Marcus said. Carter's been named interim CEO. They think the storm's over. Elena smiled. It's only changing direction. He hesitated. What will you do now? She looked down at the handbook resting atop the box. Its edges were worn, its pages annotated with her own handwriting. Rebuild, she said. But not with glass and marble this time. With people, he nodded. You already started something bigger than this building. She turned to him. Then promise me something, Marcus. Anything. When the board rewrites the policies, don't fight them with anger. Fight them with standards. Anger burns. Standards rebuild. He met her gaze. I'll guard it like it's my oath. She smiled softly. That's because it is. Weeks passed. Jonah's exposé dropped on a quiet Sunday morning. Its title, The Manufactured Fall of Elena Ward. Within hours, the story went viral. Evidence, timestamps, whistleblower testimony, all pointing to Carter's orchestration. By Monday, the board convened an emergency session. By Tuesday, Michael Carter resigned. By Wednesday, the city was chanting her name again, not as a symbol, but as a standard. 6 months later, a new organization opened its doors on the South Side, the Dignity Institute. No suits, no shareholders. Just teachers, reformers, and those once silenced. A marble plaque by the entrance read, Founded by Elena Ward, not to rebuild an empire, but to rebuild empathy. Inside, Sarah led orientation for new fellows. Marcus oversaw community programs. Jonah filmed documentaries on corporate ethics. And in the quiet of the main hall, a glass case displayed the first printed copy of the Ward Handbook, its final handwritten line still visible on the last page. Section 10.0, the Horizon Clause. When the system adapts, evolve again. That evening, Elena walked the hallway alone. The air smelled of ink, coffee, and promise. Through the open window, the city pulsed with distant sirens and laughter. She paused beneath the Institute's new banner and whispered to herself, Justice isn't won. It's maintained. Then she smiled, not the weary smile of a survivor, but the quiet one of someone who has passed the torch. Outside, thunder rolled again, softer this time, like applause from the heavens, and for the first time, Elena Ward was truly free. 5 years later, the world had turned the Dignity Institute into a franchise. Its logo appeared on tote bags, mugs, billboards, gold lettering against black. Like luxury morality, corporations quoted Elena Ward in advertisements. Politicians name-dropped her between campaign promises. Somewhere along the way, justice had become a marketing slogan. Marcus Grant stood in the Institute's main atrium, watching workers prepare for the annual Ward Commemoration Gala. Banners hung from the ceiling. 5 years of dignity. The font was bold, sterile, and entirely without soul. He exhaled. She would have hated this, he murmured. Sarah Mitchell, now director of training, joined him. "We're full tonight. Cameras, donors, international press." "Exactly," Marcus said. "Everyone but the people this place was built for." Sarah frowned. "You think we've lost it?" He looked around, the marble floors polished to blindness, the scent of imported lilies masking the old warmth. "I think we sold it," he said quietly. That evening, the gala unfolded like a symphony of self-congratulation. Champagne glasses clinked. Spotlights glided over designer suits. On the stage stood the guest speaker, a celebrity entrepreneur known for turning social causes into lifestyle brands. He smiled into the microphone. "Ellen Award showed us that dignity can be profitable. That ethics can scale." Applause erupted. Cameras flashed. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. Next to him, Sarah whispered, "At least they're spreading her message." "Are they?" he asked. "Or are they selling her name?" The speaker continued, his voice smooth, rehearsed. "We've licensed the handbook into 40 countries. We're launching a hospitality line next year, Ward Living. Because respect begins at home." Marcus closed his eyes. The crowd laughed, clapped, toasted. Each sound was another nail in the coffin of what the Institute once meant. He stood abruptly. Sarah reached for his arm. "Marcus, don't!" He stepped onto the stage anyway. The crowd hushed, recognizing the man who had stood beside Elena through every storm. He took the microphone. The celebrity smiled uncertainly, expecting a friendly interlude. Marcus's voice was calm, deep, steady. When Elena Ward founded this institute, she didn't ask for applause. She asked for reflection. She believed dignity was measured not by who watches, but by who changes. The crowd murmured. She didn't want her name printed on products. She wanted it printed on your conscience. And if tonight is what we've built in her memory... He paused, scanning the audience of donors and influencers. "Then we've built a shrine to our own comfort." The silence was absolute. Cameras still flashed, but this time the smiles were gone. The host stepped forward awkwardly. "Thank you, Mr. Grant, a powerful..." "Reminder." Marcus handed him the mic. "It wasn't a reminder," he said, stepping off stage. It was a warning. Backstage, he sat alone in the green room. Pulse still heavy, Sarah entered quietly, closing the door behind her. "They'll call it a meltdown," she said softly. "Good," Marcus replied. "Let them. Maybe they'll remember it." She handed him an envelope. "This came in the mail today. No return address." The handwriting was neat, precise, the kind he'd seen on old meeting notes, on the margins of the handbook itself. 3 letters signed the back flap, E.W. His breath caught. "Is this someone's joke?" "Open it," Sarah said. He tore the seal carefully. Inside was a single sheet of paper, yellowed at the edges. The letter read, "Marcus, the moment they turn your mission into decoration, remind them what it cost to earn the words. Truth doesn't vanish. It just waits for someone brave enough to repeat it. If you're reading this, then you already know the next battle isn't against corruption. It's against forgetfulness. Keep the flame quiet. But keep it alive, E.W." Marcus stared at the page. His throat tightening, Sarah whispered, "It can't be real." "She's gone." He shook his head slowly. "Maybe not." He turned the paper over. At the bottom corner, faint and deliberate, was a set of coordinates, a rural area outside the city. "Where does it lead?" Sarah asked. He folded the letter, slipping it into his jacket pocket. "Maybe," he said, "to a light that didn't go out." Later that night, when the gala ended and the building emptied, Marcus walked through the atrium alone. The banners still hung high, the air heavy with perfume and false praise. He stopped beneath the engraved plaque at the entrance, the same one Elena had commissioned years ago. Dignity, a policy with no expiration, he whispered to himself. Unless we stop renewing it. Outside, rain began to fall, soft, rhythmic, cleansing. Marcus stepped into the storm, letter in hand, and walked toward the coordinates scribbled by a ghost who might still be alive. Behind him, the Institute lights flickered once, twice, then steadied, burning gold against the dark. The coordinates led to the edge of the city, where the skyline surrendered to open sky. Marcus drove through fields washed silver by moonlight until the road narrowed into gravel, and finally, dirt. A weathered sign appeared at the bend. Horizon Learning Center. Evening classes. Philosophy. Ethics. Critical thought. He parked, heart thudding. The letter had brought him here, but logic couldn't explain why. Inside the modest brick building, light spilled from one room, a warm, honeyed glow. Children's laughter mixed with the hum of a piano playing softly somewhere in the distance. He walked down the corridor and paused at the open doorway. There, at a chalkboard, stood a woman whose presence could silence storms. Her hair had grayed at the edges. Her clothes were simple, white shirt, black trousers, no jewelry, but her voice, calm, deliberate, melodic, carried the same gravity that once reshaped an empire. Elena Ward. She was alive. "And when someone tells you that justice is too expensive," she said, chalk scratching softly against slate, "ask them how much ignorance has already cost." The students, teenagers, mostly black and brown faces, nodded with fierce attention. Elena turned, meeting Marcus's eyes without surprise, as though she had expected him. "Class, that's enough for tonight," she said. "Read section 10.0 again before next week, and this time, ask yourselves what it means when comfort becomes the enemy of courage." The students gathered their notebooks and slipped out, whispering excitedly about her guest. When the door closed, silence settled like dusk. Marcus finally spoke. "You faked your death." Elena smiled faintly. "Technically, I let them believe their version of the story. It was the only way to let the work breathe without me choking it. They made you a martyr. They needed one," she said. "But martyrs don't reform institutions. They only inspire obituaries." He walked closer. The chalkboard still bore fragments of her words. "Empathy as currency, courage as law." "I read your letter," he said. "The institute is growing, but it's changing. They're selling your quotes on coffee mugs." "I know," she said softly. "Every movement faces that stage, where purity becomes profitable. The question isn't whether they brand it. It's whether someone inside still remembers why it began." "That's why I came," Marcus said. "To remember." She studied him, her gaze a mixture of pride and sadness. "Then you already understand the next step." "What step?" "To let go. I built a structure, not a sanctuary. It was meant to evolve, and even through error." He hesitated. "You could come back." "Lead again," Elena shook her head. "A voice loses its truth when it demands to be heard. Mine is louder in silence now." They sat together at an old wooden table. The air smelled of rain and chalk. On the desk lay a leather-bound journal, its cover plain, its pages half-filled. Elena slid it toward him. "The second edition of the handbook. It's yours now." He touched the worn cover. "You're passing it on?" "No," she said. "I'm returning it to where it belongs, to the living." Marcus opened the journal. The last written page carried her handwriting, small and steady. Section 11.0, the legacy clause. "When your name becomes louder than your message, disappear." "Let the work speak," he swallowed hard. "You really plan to stay hidden forever?" "I'm not hidden," she said, rising from her chair. "I'm home." Through the window, the horizon stretched endless, fields shimmering beneath lightning far away. Later, as Marcus left the center, Elena followed him to the doorway. The rain had stopped. The air smelled of wet soil and something clean. "Marcus," she said, "when they ask about me, tell them the truth." He turned. "Which truth?" "That I stopped believing in saving companies and started believing in saving people." He nodded slowly. "And if they ask where you went?" She smiled. "Tell them I went to find the light they forgot." He hesitated. "You think they'll understand?" "Someday," she said. "When they stop quoting me and start acting like me." Weeks later, the world saw her one last time, not in person, but through words. At the Ward commemoration gala rescheduled after the scandal, Marcus took the stage. No banners, no sponsors. No donors this time. Only a single light and an audience of students, workers, and neighbors from the South Side. He opened the leather journal and read aloud. "Justice doesn't need my name, only your courage. The world will outgrow me. It should, but if you ever find yourself asking what comes next, remember this: dignity isn't a destination. It's the direction." The room stayed silent for a long time. Then, quietly, people began to stand, one after another, until the entire hall was on its feet. Not clapping. Just standing. Outside, lights from nearby buildings reflected in the windows. Dozens. Then hundreds, until it looked as though the city itself was bowing. Somewhere beyond those lights, in a modest classroom, Elena Ward watched the broadcast from a small television. Her students sat beside her, eyes wide, holding copies of the handbook. When the camera panned over Marcus, she whispered, "He remembered." One student asked, "Miss Ward, will you ever go back?" She smiled, eyes glimmering. "I never left." The lights in the room flickered once. Twice, then steadied, golden, quiet, endless. The last light. Sometimes, the loudest revolutions don't come from protests or boardrooms. They start in silence. In the moment someone decides that dignity is no longer optional. If Elena Ward's story moved you, if you've ever been underestimated, ignored, or dismissed, remember this: your calm isn't compliance. It's potential waiting for purpose. At Black Voices Justice, we share stories that turn pain into power and silence into strategy, because the world changes every time someone like you refuses to fade out quietly. So, if this story resonated with you, hit subscribe, share it forward, and let your voice join ours. Your comment might be the one that gives someone else courage tonight. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for believing that justice doesn't whisper. It echoes. Until next time, stay grounded, stay awake, and never forget, your dignity is non-negotiable.